Friends, humans, Disney fans, lend me your ears and lend me your votes because I think I've got just the answer for who is the best candidate for 2020. Let's chat. Well, living through 2020 has been quite a wild ride, hasn't it? One that is culminating in a very heated presidential election. It's pretty apparent that many U.S. citizens are pretty disappointed in their choices for president this election year. This is evidenced by some yard signs I have seen that say, "Any functioning adult 2020," or the even funnier option, "Dogs 2020," because humans suck. Well, during tumultuous times such as these that we are living in, we often look to our large producers of entertainment to alleviate some of our emotional and mental strife. And back in the 1970s, Disney's campaign would have been something like this: Bears 2020, because humans suck. Because during that time, they ran some huge publicity stunts, giving the public a new presidential candidate in the form of one of their most popular anthropomorphic characters, Winnie the Pooh. Now you may be wondering, why would the country need a happy distraction like a bid from Winnie the Pooh for president during the 70s? Weren't the 70s all like hip and groovy? Well, actually, no they weren't. First of all, the concept for making Winnie the Pooh a presidential campaign actually began in the summer of 1968, when in July and August, Disneyland did a small publicity stunt within its park suggesting that the chubby little cubby all stuffed with fluff bear ought to be the country's 37th president. Well, fans who attended this little publicity stunt absolutely loved it, and to me, it totally makes sense why it was so popular. 1968 was a crazy year. Lyndon Johnson, the incumbent, bowed out of the race early, which honestly really only seems fair. I'm not really sure why he was even allowed to run again, considering he had technically already served in 2 terms, but whatever the case may be. During that election cycle, Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr. were both assassinated. The Vietnam War was still dragging on, and tensions in the country were high. No wonder people welcomed the fun, lighthearted notion of Winnie the Pooh running for their commander-in-chief. Well, after the 68 election was over, Disney had 4 more years to take this little publicity stunt and turn it into a complete media circus, and that is exactly what they did. On October 1st, 1972, on Walt Disney World's first birthday, Winnie the Pooh was selected as a presidential candidate on the Children's Party ticket at a convention held outside of Cinderella's castle. And this was a true convention, with delegates and everything. The Sears Corporation, who was pushing large amounts of Winnie the Pooh merch at the time, held a nationwide drawing to find these delegates, or kids, and send them to Disney World with their families. One family attended from each of the 50 states. Then, just 2 days later, at his West Coast retreat, Pooh Bear announced his platform, which included but was not limited to honey in every pot, bringing down the cost of ice cream, a hot fudge sundae every Monday, and Pooh Bear was going to ban spanking. Now, by 1972, the political climate wasn't quite as crazy. Richard Nixon was running as a very popular incumbent against his opponent, George McGovern. But maybe Pooh Bear running for president was a welcome distraction from the fact that the vice presidential candidates were named Spiro Agnew and Sargent Shriver. Weirdest names ever. And I mean, Sargent Shriver wasn't even like a sergeant in the military or anything. That was his name. In fact, it was his middle name. His first name was Robert, but no, let's go with Sargent. My apologies to anyone out there who has named their child Sargent. Great name choice. I mean, really, who am I to talk? I've got a kid named Phoenix. Let's take a pause here and take a quick moment to play 6 Degrees of Separation, in which we will connect Sargent Shriver, 1972 presidential candidate, to Chris Pratt. Ready? Here we go. Robert Sargent Shriver is the father of Maria Shriver, who was married to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Together, they had a daughter named Catherine, who is now married to Chris Pratt. Ta-da! Ha! You didn't think I could do it, did ya? So yes, Star-Lord's grandfather-in-law was a vice presidential candidate in 1972. Sargent Shriver was also married to a Kennedy, which is maybe why he didn't go by Robert. Anyway, back to to Pooh. After he announced the platforms he was running on, Winnie the Pooh, along with Eeyore and Tigger, headed off on a 2-week train trip across the country to campaign. Yes, this is a real thing that happened. And guess what? Thousands of people showed up at these train stops. In just 2 weeks' time, they went from Anaheim to DC with stops along the way at places like Barstow, Kansas City, and Chicago. During this time, it was important that Pooh Bear announce his running mate. He had narrowed the choice down to Owl or Piglet. Owl seemed like a good choice here since he... Are you ready for this? Since he appealed to both left and right wingers. I just can't. It's too much, guys, it's too much. Pooh ultimately ended up choosing Piglet. Like, whatever, Pooh, Owl was obviously the better choice. And along the campaign trail, Pooh made more promises, such as putting 2 tricycles in every garage, providing free candy on holidays, and making sure everyone enjoyed not 1, but 2 Saturdays a week. Seriously, guys, this was like the cutest thing that's happened in the history of ever. Ultimately, Winnie the Pooh did actually receive some write-in votes in the 1972 election. However, he did have to concede defeat to President Richard Nixon, who won in a landslide that year. But Pooh's 72 campaign was such a huge PR success that doing it again in 1976 was a no-brainer. And this time, it was a distraction that the public needed. What a crazy 4 years they had just experienced. In 1973, there was a scandal that forced Vice President Spiro Agnew to resign. This was really the second disappointment in his life, the first, of course, being that he was named Spiro Agnew. Then, less than a year later, the Watergate scandal led President Nixon to resign. I cannot even imagine within a year's time both of these seats being overturned. It just seems like that would have felt really uncomfortable and unstable for the country. Due to both of these men resigning, Gerald Ford had his best year ever and ended up in the White House despite never being elected as either vice president or president. So, that year, it was President-elect Ford racing against peanut farmer and Georgia Governor Jimmy Carter. But let's not forget that Ford had another formidable foe, that willy-nilly silly old bear, Winnie the Pooh. Now, Pooh's campaign this year shifted from being an in-person campaign stop type of strategy to more of a media-driven approach. In '76, Pooh's campaign boasted that he was a honey of a candidate and the children's pick for '76. And while there was some fanfare at Disney parks such as Tigger tape parades and Pooh-litical fundraising, the focus of the campaign that year was more on a record that was put out by, you guessed it, the Sears Corporation. The record was 8 minutes long, and the highlight was the song Winnie the Pooh for President. You guys, it was nominated for a Grammy. You can't make this stuff up. It's really a cute song wherein Pooh Bear makes some more campaign promises, outlines his cabinet, and is just generally adorable. I'll leave a link to a video in the description below so that you can experience the song for yourself. So that, my friends, is the story of how Winnie the Pooh ran for president, and it's just got me thinking. Don't you think 2020 is just the year to do this again? Isn't this just the welcome distraction we need right now? I mean, it's a little short notice for them to pull it off now, but if they had, may I suggest who would have been the perfect running mates in my opinion? First off, let's fix some of the obvious problems with making Pooh Bear the nominee. First off, he's not human. Secondly, you have to be a natural-born citizen of the United States to run for president, and Winnie the Pooh was conceived, developed, and written by A.A. Milne in the United Kingdom. So what was Disney even thinking? People would have been asking to see Pooh Bear's birth certificate had he won. No, I think Disney should have made their nominee for president a human, natural-born American. And let's give the ladies a chance, shall we? My pick for the Disney Children's Party nominee would have been Princess Tiana. I think she'd be perfect, you guys. A Louisiana native, Tiana would be just like Owl and appeal to both the left and right wingers. I'm sorry, I'm still cracking up over that Owl joke. But really, I know I shouldn't just assume Tiana's political stances, but something tells me that she might be fiscally conservative, but lean more liberal socially, and she's super level-headed and determined to get things done. So Tiana for president 2020. But this raises the question, who would be her running mate? Well, at first, I thought Rapunzel would be perfect, since she would know exactly how to handle the coronavirus. But then I remembered the whole natural-born citizen thing, and she was, of course, born in Corona. So I'm going to have to go with Pocahontas as the running mate to Tiana. Pocahontas is obviously very environmentally conscious, and she's able to see past people's differences and appreciate them for who they really are. So there you have it, friends. Tiana, Pocahontas 2020. Come on, Disney, why didn't you do this? Like what you saw in today's video? Check out one of my song parody music videos right here, or one of my Disney Vacation Tips videos right here. And click that subscribe button and the bell next to it so that you don't miss out on any of the Disney fun here at Lend Me Your Ears. Until next time, this is Melanie saying, stay magical, my friends.